Jupiter, the planet of luck, growth, abundance, and wisdom, is moving into Cancer, the sign of its exaltation, on the 10th of June and will remain there until the 30th of June 2026. That's a big deal. And Jupiter is more or less always good news. So even though I'm on a holiday here, wait. I'll still talk about it and post it. I am Nadia, the astrologer for people who don't believe in astrology, but who suddenly have the urge to learn about what it means that Jupiter is ingressing into Cancer. And what I will be talking about is what it means in itself. So like the whole transit of Jupiter through Cancer, what to expect of it in general, but also how does it compare to the previous transit of Jupiter through Cancer? Those birds don't want to let me talk. Because the previous one was a bit more tense than this one is going to be. So if we're going to compare, we have to take that into account. And then I'm going to talk about the specific roles that Jupiter is going to play in planetary constellations within the next year. It will have a trigger function. It will launch something very specific this June, and then it will have a harmonizing function at the end of 2025. And then I'll tell you where to look for forecasts for each of the 12 zodiac signs for Jupiter in Cancer. Now, in itself, every transit of Jupiter through Cancer is considered lucky because Cancer is the sign of Jupiter's exaltation, which means that Jupiter is not only strong here, powerful, can provide more luck than normally, but it also takes on a dignified quality. At first glance, we wouldn't necessarily associate the sign Cancer and the planet Jupiter. Cancer is family and home and enclosed spaces, and Jupiter is travel and wisdom and expansion. But what do they have in common? They have a crazy investment and interest in growth. Cancer, as a caring, nurturing family person, is extraordinarily interested in nurturing growth, basically, in taking care of children, in taking care of others people's children, in taking care of the garden, in taking care of businesses and growing them as well. And yes, it wants to ideally do it in a way that is safe and familiar. While Jupiter rules growth, kind of. It's the planet of expansion and growth and large sizes and quantities, basically. And when it ends up spending 1 year in Cancer, these are the processes that it wants to invest in. But then from Cancer, it also takes on sensitivity and receptiveness and attention to feelings and nurturing qualities, which make him from a simple giant, Jupiter is a giant planet, a gas giant, into a gentle, helpful giant, which is the Jupiter we will be working with within the next a little bit more than 12 months. And the effect may be like having both very nurturing parents, Cancer, and a brilliant, demanding tutor, Jupiter. And they work in agreement with each other. They don't fight, really. So we are more likely to reach our potential without damaging our health or psyche. That's a good combination. So it is basically the transit of the wholesome growth of the gentle, helpful giant. And it can also give us the blessing of belonging, because Cancer is the sign for which the sense of belonging is very important. And Jupiter can give us the tools to achieve it. Furthermore, Jupiter in Cancer has respect for feelings, for intuition, for creativity, for the heart's attachments. And it uses them not as an excuse to do nothing, but as a powerful motivation to grow and learn and create and explore. And that's another amazing combination. So emotional, intuitive sensitivity, creative sensitivity, and a drive to create and to be active that we should all make use of more often. So I am trained as an evolutionary astrologer under Stephen Forrest, but whenever I want to have some new ideas about a sign, I usually first turn to the book that's called The Shamanic Astrology Handbook, and they usually have an interesting take on it. So just recently I was writing about Venus and Taurus, and for Taurus they have this that Taurus is a healthy receiver, meaning that there are a lot of people who want to give, but they also want their gifts to be received properly and with enough gratitude and competence. And Taurus is the sign that should have the competence and the gratitude to receive the gifts. That's a fun idea, but that's not about Cancer. So about Cancer, what they have is that Cancer is a personal hierarchical giver, meaning that Cancer actually wants to give. We know this about Cancer people, they are caring, but it's also hierarchical. So it is giving from a parent to a child, or from a teacher to the students, from the volunteer to whoever they are taking care of, from a person with a collection to the things that belong in a collection, from the gardener to the plants. It is very hierarchical, which Jupiter, as we know, the king of gods, is also very much into hierarchies. But it's also very personal. It is giving in a hierarchical context, but on a personal basis of love and care and the feelings that exist between people. Of course, the downside then is that it's not very universal. Jupiter in Cancer is not interested in investing into the happiness of everyone everywhere, but it can invest into the happiness and growth of people and animals and whatever else he cares about. And it can also help us do the same. Of course, being a giver is not always a healthy habit. So ideally, if you know yourself to be a giver, you would use this transit that lasts for a little more than 12 months to learn how to be a healthy giver, to engage in proper self-care so that your giving is from fullness and not from depletion. What Cancer and Jupiter also have in common is responsibility. So Cancer is responsible for other people, beings, animals, plants, subjects, objects in the collection. And Jupiter is connected to laws. So during this transit, some sort of responsibility and lawfulness is likely to be helped by the universe. And yes, this transit is potentially great for parents and for families, but Cancer as a sign in general is about being committed to a seed until it grows to maturity, which could be said about any significant project, like also a business where you plant a seed and you are committed to its growth and you invest into its growth. And then, yes, Cancer is a very good custodian, so you can potentially work on maintaining that business for as long as you want. But Cancer is also a parent, and a parent's task is to grow a person until they can stand on their own 2 feet and then let them go, which in a business context could be grow and sell. Now, how does this compare to the Jupiter's transit through Cancer in 2013, 2014? That one was amazing for me. I am a Cancer, so I am looking forward to the transit that we have ahead of us. But the last time it happened, the good things that happened in my life were happening while the good things that were happening in my life during the previous transit were happening while everything else was falling down in ruins. I do not recommend having this experience, but it made sense astrologically because the last time Jupiter was transiting through Cancer, it was all the time making hard aspects to some very undelicate planets like Pluto in Capricorn, a very strong disruptive force, or Uranus in Aries, just as strong, even more disruptive, I would say. There was also a Mars retrograde, so Mars was also pinging off Jupiter. It was harsh. So if you have anything in Cancer and you can remember time from the summer of 2013 until the summer of 2014, it is likely to have been full of potential, to have given you some opportunities, but it is unlikely that it was smooth sailing. Is it going to be completely peaceful this time? More peaceful, yes. Completely free of any bumps, not so much. So what does Jupiter do in 2025, 2026? Now, I will invite you to watch the video, which will appear here somewhere or also in the description, about the wonderful, amazing astrology of 2025, 2026. This is when slow planets are gathering in a combination where they all support each other. And then Jupiter will also be a part of those constellations. First, in June 2025, so almost like tomorrow from the day that I am recording, Jupiter will enter Cancer and will immediately form a hard aspect to two of those important slow planets that have changed signs, specifically to Saturn and Neptune in Aries. These are the two most important planets in the astrology of 2025-2026, if I had to make a choice. And Jupiter, by forming a hard aspect with them, is activating them. So this combination, Saturn and Neptune in Aries, is connected to some difficult task. And the level of difficulty is so high that not everyone is going to take it on. Some people will just suffer. But if you do have the potential to take on this task and to be successful in completing it, then Jupiter's help is what you need very much. And this is what you're going to get during June 2025. So the way it may feel is like this. Either you get hopeful first and then see what obstacles you are up against, or you know the obstacles first, you know how difficult the task is that lies ahead of you. But then when Jupiter enters Cancer, you suddenly feel like there's a chance you can do it right. There's a chance you can succeed. You are hopeful. Jupiter is the planet of hope. But it's not a soft month, this June. It's not a peaceful month. It's a month where we get hopeful about something incredibly difficult. And the hope that we get would come from Jupiter in Cancer. So it will have those qualities of attention to growth and responsibility and lawfulness and emotional and creative sensitivity as well. This gentle giant energy is going to help us if we are to succeed in this extremely difficult task that Saturn and Neptune in Aries represent. And then also next year, in the summer of 2026, once Jupiter moves into Leo, it will trigger this combination again, but from Leo. That will be a different turning point and a different push towards something new. But now to the harmonizing influence. This we will be dealing with in the final 3 months of 2025, when those slow planets that have entered the new signs throughout the end of 2024 and the first months of 2025 will all retrograde back into the old signs. So we'll have to also get back and work on some old business Luckily, Jupiter will be at the end of Cancer and it will be forming helpful, harmonizing aspects with all of those planets. And it will not be a trigger, it will be more like an opportunity, some help. It can provide the needed resources, it can make the growth more growy. So even if right now in June, hope will be connected to a really difficult task, at the end of 2025, it will be connected to a more hopeful task that will be easier to succeed in. Ideally, you would succeed everywhere, but see, you have three opportunities here. One is the super difficult task that will become clear this June. The other one is an easier task, but it's more of a finishing task at the end of 2025. And yet another one is also a new task that will be full of potential and that will become clear in July 2026, I would say, also with help of Jupiter, just in a different sign. So all in all, Jupiter is always good news, but it is especially good news when it is transiting Cancer, because it is just as good for growth as Jupiter in other signs, if not better. But it's also caring, it's also responsible, it's also creative, it's also emotionally competent, which, if you know your mythology, Jupiter is not known for. And if you want to hear about what this transit means for your specific sun sign and or rising sign, then go and watch my June forecasts, which I will link in the description, and skip to the part where I talk about Jupiter in Cancer, or sometimes it's called What is Going On in Cancer. There's also a new moon in Cancer at the end of June, which will be a nice way to dive into the project that this Jupiter will help you with. And generally, I would say I tend to combine the forecast for the sun sign and then the forecast for the rising sign, and then two of them together create a story that makes more sense for me. I'm hoping I will get some sound despite the birds. So I'm wishing you a nice Jupiter in Cancer transit. Even if it's a little bit bumpy at first, it will be more of a smooth sailing situation starting July. And if you have good memories about Jupiter in Cancer transit from 2013 to 2014, this time it can be even better. And now I just really want to show you the sea. I'm so frustrated by this white in this portion of the screen. Now let's go. Is it showing anything? Yes. Good. So have a good year. Grow something. Make the most of it. Become hopeful and sensitive and responsible and hopeful and optimistic and generous. These are the Jupiterian qualities. And then mix them with Cancer's attention to also growth and emotional competence and being a healthy, hierarchical, personal giver. And see you in the next videos.